Hello, I'm Alex Mansfield, the host of Manny Talks Shooting, and welcome to another episode. This is the shooting podcast where I talk to individuals all across the shooting industry. We'll talk competition, self-defense, concealed carry. If you like this content, check out our YouTube channel, Manny Talks Shooting. And without further ado, let's get to this episode. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Manny Talks Shooting, the shooting podcast for you because of me and my social butterflyness, but it's okay. Anyway, welcome back to another episode. Before we get started, let's talk about the title sponsor of the podcast, Go Fast, Don't Suck. Bill Duda is awesome, and he runs around to a bunch of major matches, supporting them either in presence or in spirit, because his hurtful memes and stickers are all over the range. But he can get you match jerseys, banners, dry fire targets at home, hats, hoodies galore, especially the memes that hurt your soul because they are oh so true. But anyway, go check out gofastdon'tsuck.net. Tell them Manny sent you and move on with your day. Without further ado, let's get to the meat and potatoes of why we're actually here today. Today, we're sitting down with the owner and founder, Greg of Make Ready Nutrition, and his friend, Mitch Chapman. How are we doing, gentlemen?
Doing good,
great.
Alex.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. It's going to be an awesome conversation. It's honestly is because Greg reached out to me and was like, "Hey, let's have a conversation." I'm like, "Absolutely, let's talk." Because like what, 2 months ago, your company just like came out of nowhere and was like, bam, like I'm on the internet.
Yeah, it seems longer than that though, Alex. I mean, it really does. It did happen overnight. And I was very blessed and very fortunate to go from basically having a dream, started being a shooter in, what was it, Mitch, 2021, when we first picked up a gun on the range, and then shooting matches, and then having this insight of how can I help these people. I mean, they're overnourished, undernourished athletes, given that they're all 100%. I mean, they reminded me quite a bit of my gym family.
Mhm.
And so I was driving back from Odessa, Texas, on Dragons Cup 2, and just an absolute brutal physical match. 13 hours on stage, in the Permian Basin heat. And quick story is, when I walked up, the first person I met was Dexter Lopez. I don't know if you know Dexter, but he's pretty renowned in the shooting industry in the USPSA, and I mean, he was suffering, and so was the other shooters, and it was just like, okay, some of my I was a medic in the Army, and some of my training kind of kicked in from 40 plus years ago, and it was like, hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. You guys need to push water, and they were drinking hydration products, electrolyte products, and stuff like that. But I mean, they were really, really suffering. So the only thing you can do, from heat exhaustion like that, is just get cold towels and cold sheets, and just try to help them out. And then 24 hours later, I was in the same position. But I was drinking my protein shakes. I was drinking, my hydration drinks and stuff like that. So, yeah, it seems like only a couple of months ago, Alex, it just boom, Make Ready Nutrition is here. But it's going good, man. It's going
Mhm.
really good.
And it looks like it, and it's awesome to see a lot of people backing it and supporting it and trying the product. It's really cool. I've seen you've been blowing up social media with users posts, your own like partnerships you've formed in this short time, which is awesome. And I know we'll talk about it more in a little bit, but I'm really interested, from both of your perspectives of like, did you start in with guns at home as a young age, or this coming later in life? I know you said you started matches in 21, but have you always been around the firearms industry?
We're from Texas, Alex. So I think we had guns, in elementary school, and my dad was always, taking me shooting, and always target practice. And then of course I entered the military, and fired weapons in, but we didn't really think anything about it. I know Mitch has an extensive background in firearms.
Yeah, I grew up in a family with, hunting and fishing at the center of my youth, and always had uh, going to the range with my dad, and plinking, and just doing the normal kind of routine. As I got older and got married, had a family, and Started, just doing family stuff, definitely less on the gun range, less hunting and whatnot. And then at a certain point, I decided that I was going to go apply for my FFL because I just thought that would be interesting to have it as kind of like a side hustle.
Hmm.
And so, believe it or not, I did, and I got it. And so I kind of went from, hey, I don't really do a whole lot with guns to I'm a licensed firearm dealer, and but at the same time, still had my day job of cybersecurity. So during that period of life, I had, access to pretty much whatever I wanted. Greg and I spent a pretty good bit of time going through, hey, if we could get some cool stuff, what would we get, right? And that whole thing, probably what a lot of home-based FFLs do whenever that time comes. So, it kind of just ebbed and flowed, I would say, from being in the industry per se, actually going to SHOT Show, spending time with some of the professionals, but not really understanding that there's a whole nother world to it in, competition. So it was, hey, let's get cool guns, put, red dots on them, and then, go shoot paper for like, 50 rounds with Winchester white box, and then, go home. And that was it, right? It was like, it's kind of the end of it.
Yeah, and it's kind of, how do I put this in another way? But it's definitely a different leap when you get into that competition aspect of people are like they go and train instead of just plink. They figure out exactly what they want to do at the range, not, oh, can I shoot this can off of this post stand at 5 yards or whatever it is.
Exactly
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Hmm. Well, and I guess I'm curious is how did you two originally meet then?
At work. And we both have extensive careers in cybersecurity back before cybersecurity was even cool. Nobody really even knew what we did. We were both in information technology, and then we kind of, veered right. Mitch and I have been good friends since day one, just because we're very similar in the aspect when I think the best describe Mitch and I is when our backs against the wall, we just break the wall, and we don't really care. I mean,
Hmm.
it's a really good friendship. We never have a plan B. We come up with an idea, and then we just dive head first into it. And then the competitive shooting aspect was something that we just fell in backwards to. There was another friend at work that had been shooting competitively, and he took us to an outdoor range, and we were shooting targets. And of course, I had my little T-Rex thigh strap camo holster and Glock 17, and Mitch had his gun and stuff like that. We were just used to lane shooting, just
Hmm.
point click, point click, point click. And our friends said, "Hey, you guys are pretty good. Why don't you shoot on the move?" And I remember thinking, "Why would I do that?"
Hmm.
So we started taking a couple of steps and shoot, a couple of steps and shoot, and we got pretty good at that. And he said, "Okay, now we're going to put you on a clock." And I said, "Why would we do that?" He said, "Because that's we're going to do that."
Hmm.
And we started doing that. And so Mitch and I have been really good friends, both at work and socially, for 20 years. And we hunt together. I've gone dove hunting with him and his dad before, and we really had a good time. And we just like-minded people, and we just never really, just really never questioned why we were doing something. We just did it.
Hmm. Yeah, and those are the kind of the best friendships and people to meet, right? It's people you stick with like glue and they just do everything together. And it's nice to actually have that a person at the same time who comes into the sport as you. You can bounce things off of them, and you always have a carpool buddy. You never have to drive alone unless you have to.
Yeah, most
You know,
definitely.
it along the same lines too is you have someone to go through the experience of getting ramped up both from equipment and gear perspective. Hey, what are you doing? Maybe I need to be doing that too, right? Because we all learn differently in life, regardless of what we do professionally, how we've been educated, et cetera. Some people are really hands-on, some people are book people, right? Like I want to read a book and learn how to do it. For me, I'm like uh, stick me in front of that and just give me some hands-on experience. Once I do it a couple times, I will, figure out kind of my skill level and bump up from there. And I think that's what was so fun in the beginning was as we kind of stepped off into it with our buddy Lance, he he had been talking about shooting matches while we were working together professionally, and so he was just talking, and we're like, oh wow, okay, so yeah, what's that like? And he would share, but he's just a really like humble conservative kind of guy, so he didn't go like all in. If you ask one of us, well, hey, tell me about shooting a match. I mean, we could talk for hours about shooting a match, right? Our best match, our worst match, the classifier I just blew, whatever it is. And he just kind of took us through that and then said, you got to just come out. And I had been through like a tactical training class, actually a couple of them, but nothing anywhere near, competing on a clock and having to be what I would say even more responsible for the rule set, right? And the respect for, hey, everybody around us has guns on. And, so we got to be careful. We got to watch the whole concept of the 180 and all that kind of thing. So as we got further into it, I think we were enjoying it together and experiencing hey, I'm thinking about buying this. What do you think? I'm like, okay, well, you buy that and let me know how it goes, right? And yeah, I mean, we've all been there, right? Where you got the friend that's like, hey, I think I'm going to go do something wild and buy this, and then they do, and you're like, man, I kind of hope that goes well because I've been wanting one of those too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then someone's always the guinea pig, and they like, all right, you spent your money. Oh, it didn't work. Thanks for saving me some money.
Exactly right, 100%. And we've had those experiences as well, both on both sides.
It still are. Yeah,
Yeah,
still are.
yeah,
Yeah, we still are.
absolutely. About
Yeah,
every time we purchase something, I would say.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
and I both see that you both shoot PCC,
Yeah.
and so which PCCs are you running? Because that's obviously got to be a very personal choice, and what works for one person is not always what works for somebody else. So I'm kind of curious, do you have the same setups or are they completely different?
Different.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, I didn't know what USPSA was. I didn't know what IDPA was. I didn't know anything. We were on a group text, three of us, and Lance sent a group text one night and said, "Hey, there's an outlaw match out at Mission 160. You guys ought to do it." And I mean, I didn't even talk to Mitch. I don't think. I just came in and found out what practice score was, and practice score looked it up. Went and got my USPSA number. Blah 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 blah. Doesn't have anything to do with an outlaw match. You can just show up and shoot paper and steel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Signed up for the match. By this time, I was shooting a Glock, and by this time, Mitch and I had gone to a local gun range, and it was hosted by Staccato. Staccato was brand new. I just was enamored and fell in love with Staccato. I mean, I want the XC, but I'm gonna start with the P, blah blah blah, and started shooting that. Signed up for the outlaw match, and the day comes, and I'm driving out to the range, and I texted everybody. I'm like, I'm stoked. Are you guys stoked? And nobody responds. I was like, well, that's weird. So I get to the range, and I'm pulling in, and finally Lance responds back and says, "Oh, dude, I'm not shooting. I'm in Tennessee. This is my first match, Alex."
Mm-hmm.
And then I check with Mitch, and I'm like, "Bro, are you on your way?" And he's like, "Oh no, I'm not coming. I got shit. I got stuff to do." So I was like, I don't know anyone. Here I am with a brand new shiny gun, this little tactical rig, so on and so forth. So I shoot the match, and I don't know how I feel about competitive shooting, but I know I like the people. I mean, the people were kick ass. I mean, they were very helpful. They were very knowledgeable. They were very compassionate, help the new guy, so on and so forth. And so I went from the Staccato P to the XC, which has a baby comp on it. So now Greg's shooting open minor,
Yep.
right? He's been
Mm-hmm.
shooting what? Not even 45 days, and I'm in open minor in USPSA, and I go take a shooting lesson, and the first thing that my shooting coach tells me is, Greg, we need to get you to run like a man. I was like, oh my God, this dude just said this to me, right? So, I mean, again, when we dive into anything, we dive in head first, and damn the consequences or whatever. Well, I'm shooting open minor for 3, 4, 5 months. I finally struggle up to C class. Mitch is shooting SIG MPX, right?
Big MPX. Yep.
Yeah, so he's shooting the SIG and PX PCC, and he's just rocking and rolling and having a ball with it, and I'm struggling and frustrated, and I mean, it just everything that is going along there. And then I think it was 3, 4, 5 months or something like that. We were at the range shooting, and he said, "Do you want to try to shoot this gun?" And I said, "Oh, okay, yeah." And the first thing I noticed about shooting PCC is I'm not looking for the dot. I mean,
Mhm.
the red dot is right there. I don't have to, struggle to find the dot anymore. I don't really have to struggle with recoil that much. And it's pretty damn cool, right? Running with PCC. So I go out and get a SIG MPX and we go down that route. And then that just kind of snowballed from there in the PCC world.
Yeah, I was going to say, where are you going next with that? Because it did. We shoot with I would say primarily PCC folks, not because we sought them out, but we ended up on a squad like our second or third match or something, and it's like, man, everybody's got these PCCs. Okay, well, you guys are like-minded and whatever, and then we kind of figure out, okay, well, that's all you shoot is PCC, and you go on USPSA and look at their classifiers, like that's you're only classified in that. Okay, this might be our people. They might know what they're doing.
Mhm.
And so then, that whole thing kind of just started to get into the advanced level of setting up a gun and, changing out triggers and, all the stuff that begins, when you realize there's a lot more to that world. And in some cases, it was like, okay, well, I want to shoot this guy's PCC and try it out. And then, you do, and you're like, holy cow, that's a lot different than mine or whatever. And I think for me, what happened was I got an MPX because one of the guys that we shoot with uh, had said, like, hey, that's a really good, setup to get. And he was a pretty good shooter. He's like an A shooter in PCC and older guy. And so I got that, and then I quickly realized, hey, there's a lot to keeping this thing running, right? It's not just it's really not that great out of the box, right? It required some
Yeah.
additional care and feeding. And so once I figured that out, I was like, okay, I think I got this dialed in, $500 worth of parts later. And it worked good. And then I want to say it was Terran Tactical announced
TR9. Yeah.
announced their TR9.
Mhm.
And so I'm talking with Zach Smith with Taryn
Mhm.
on IG on DM, and I'm like, hey, tell me about this thing, right? I mean, you know how we are, right? We're kind of just social creatures since we have this incredible social media network to us.
Mhm.
We can just kind of jump in, and so one thing leads to another, and he's like, yeah, you ought to order one. Oh, okay, well, sounds good. I'll do that. And so I did, and waited until the first batch came. I got one of the first ones and ran that, and that was going from an MPX to a blowback gun, as the TR9 is, was certainly a little bit of a learning curve there. And then uh, Greg, when you got so you had MPX, but then
I
you
went the
went
other way. I went
you
blowback
went the other
gun.
way. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
I had Matt. I had a local pro build me a PCC, and it's
Yep,
a quarter circle or a quarter circle 10 upper lower, so on
yep.
and so forth. I mean, it's just phenomenal. It's like a 6-inch compo. It's just a nasty light, less than 6 pounds PCC that I started out with, and Mitch went his way, and then I went that way, and that's what we do. We go different directions, and then we meet in the middle because I I shot the Da Vinci DC-9 for a while, but I kept going back to the custom built gun, and then Mitch went to JP Land and has never looked back. And then my JP, Mitch and I checked on it yesterday. Should be here in 3 to 4 weeks.
Well, there you go. At least
The JP5.
so then if one of your PCCs goes down, you can just swap the other one. You're like, all right, we're
That's
sharing this
Or
gun.
That's exactly the
yeah,
thought, right? So as we started getting down that path, it was like at some point we're going to have to land on the same platform. so that if something does go awry, we're going to have, basically a bucket of spare parts that we can dole out, like you're in the military, right? And I think we're finally going to get there with the JP5. We both had TR9s at the same time. The JP5 came out, and I was not, in all seriousness, I've told this story 100 times to people. I was not going to buy one. I was actually kind of going to boycott the JP5 because I was like, I'm not doing that because the wait times had been just crazy long for them. Like, man, I am not waiting for that. And we had friends that were like 9 months into the wait, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not patient enough for that. So one day I literally I'm just on Gunbroker, like perusing, right? And all of a sudden I see one and it happens to be local to me. And so I'm like, okay, well, I sent an email to the guy, and one thing leads to another. We meet up the next day and it's a done deal, right? And then I show up to the range, and I was like, hey, check out this new gun. And everybody's like, you got to be kidding me. I was that guy at that point. And so I sold my TR9, and I have not. Greg's right. I haven't looked back. I really enjoy the JP5. TR9 is a great gun. MPX, I'm not trying to hate on any of those. I mean, in the right capable hands with, the right patience level, all of those will perform at a GM level if you want to. I am not a GM, by the way, but have seen plenty of people that are high performers with those platforms do extremely well. Now, what really got me on the JP5 was the fact that we met Max Leograndis, and Max obviously shoots for JP. I got to shoot his JP5 one day, and I was just like, man, that is such a night and day difference than anything else that I have ever experienced. But what I, kind of didn't realize is Max's JP5 is not a out of the box JP5, right? It is a lot of modifications to it. So I essentially just kind of went down that path of asking him what he had done, getting the kind of experience from him, and figuring out that whole thing, and landed on one that's, I would say, pretty much an exact decoy to what Max runs primarily, and works great. For me, I've really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's at that point probably that JP just needs to release the ML edition, right? Like, so they can just buy it.
Exactly. You're right.
Yeah, for sure.
But knowing him, he changed it as soon as they release it. Then it's invalid at that point. But it's okay.
Correct. Yeah, exactly right. It's it's a little bit of that, right? I think we all tend to we look at the competitive landscape and we see what the others that are doing well, what are they using, right? And what red dot is, people experiencing, good, whatever it is, stays true, and good battery life, et cetera. And we all kind of flock to that. But when you see what the pros are using, in a lot of cases, what I've seen is that they're some of them are just using just like right out of the box guns, and you pick one of those up and you experience the same thing. Like, man, this thing just runs phenomenal out of the box. And then others, like we shoot with Ben Hart, who shoots for Beretta,
Mm-hmm.
and he has a 92X that is like highly customized. Really, really, really phenomenal gun. And you shoot his, and you're like, man, I'm gonna buy one of these. And then you shoot one out of the box, and you're like, this is nothing like Ben's gun, like nothing.
Yeah, because you got to get all those Tony Systems parts in it, and then figure out what the SKUs are. And
that's right.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot, and then the custom, work that's going on inside of the gun as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
and the time that he shot Max's JP5, we were at F5 Farms with Josh Freilich, and there's even a video out there of Josh and Max, and Max is a tinkerer and a customizer, and Josh is not. And Josh Freilich shoots pretty much a stock JP5. I mean, it's just right out of the box, and and their splits are the same. I mean, we've got we had the fortunate of sitting there watching Max Leograndis and Josh Freilich do a shoot off on steel. And it just blows your mind on the Texas Star. So to make it challenging, there was a kid ran down range and spun the Texas Star as fast as he could, ran up range, and they started the timer, and these guys just blistered some steel, and so I don't know that JP5 is going to make me any better, but it can't make me any worse. So again, we're less than 2 years into this competition thing.
Well, and maybe, at least from my perspective, maybe the fact is that Max is a lot smaller than Josh. So Max has to tinker with things, and Freilich can pretty much just muscle whatever gun he's shooting. Besides his natural talent, he can just muscle it and just rip splits because he's a freaking lumberjack. I mean, those Minnesota boys.
He's a big boy. Yeah.
That's a really good point. And I think that goes into the equation for a lot of buyers as well, right? Is, you look at the person that's running that normally, and Max is a good example because he's not a big dude. He's extremely agile in the way that he moves. If you watch him, he's just he's very precise in his movement. And so he makes up for things that, a lot of us would I would say we would kind of miss the mark on. And it's not necessarily because we couldn't do it. It's just he's got that experience. Then you flip and you look at Josh and the way that he runs one gun, two gun, three gun, whichever. And I mean, it's just a phenomenally different type of stage execution than how Max does. But to Greg's point, Josh's JP5 was legit out of the box with Vortex optics on it, and that was it. There was nothing special about it.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe that might be all, I guess like another point I can make is maybe that's the fact that, Josh has been a sponsored shooter in the industry a lot longer than Max has. And he's just like, they give me a gun. I'm going to shoot it. I'm going to show how good it is. I don't need to do anything to it. And
good point.
And like I said,
well, and he said he is not a tinkerer. He is not going to tear something apart and rebuild it. Whereas Max will try 5 different triggers. He'll try 5 different lockers. He'll try different ammo and stuff like that. That's how Mitch is. Mitch's favorite favorite toy is a hammer, and he will take something stock and he will have it ripped down. I mean, the Ford F-350. I mean, he just rebuilds the suspension. Brand new truck, rebuilds the suspension. I'm not a tinkerer. I mean, I don't play with it. I do take Mitch's lead. I'll take other people's advice on, the Hyperfire Eclipse because it's a really fast trigger, and it can hold up to the beatings that we give it, right? So, the Geisley SD3, I think we've kind of, switched over to those. Really enjoying those triggers just for the same thing. I mean, they get really fast splits and they can hold up to, all the torture that we give it.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's always going to be those people, but I guess I'm kind of in that camp. So once it's set up for me, I'm like, I'm done. I like say it's built. I'm good. I'll just learn how to run it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. And then at that point, it's also a confidence thing too. It's like, is my gun going to work? Well, yes, I know it's going to work because I haven't messed with it at all. I bet Mitch has a story or two of when he was tinkering with it and then he didn't make it go work.
True story. That and if you reload your own ammo, right, you get into that whole, you start going down that path. And to your point, I've done pretty much from taking a brand new. I mean, I hadn't even shot my JP5, and I had it completely pulled apart and was changing out the trigger, the foregrip, and optics. And I mean, I think I called JP literally before I had shot it. I called them and said, "Hey, can I get the upper changed out to the side charger upper? I didn't get that." They're like, "The what?" Like, yeah, the one like Max's. They're like, "Yeah, no, we're not doing that right now." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Prototype.
Yeah, like just go shoot the gun and have fun with it. Like, oh, okay, all right, cool. But I think when we get it to the level like you talked about, Alex, where we're confident in the platform and we've got the ammo dialed, that's when actually defining, what exactly our skill set is at that point. You can't blame it on the equipment anymore, right? It's like, okay, well, this thing performs to a certain level. Now I've got to make the human perform to that level at some point, right? I mean, everything for me goes into panic mode whenever the beep goes off, right? So that's mental management. It doesn't matter how I can have the best equipment on the planet, but in my mind, if I don't have focus and I don't have, my energy levels not where I need it to be, if I didn't, get good rest or, whatever, all the just the human things that we've got to take care of, I'm not going to shoot a good match. I mean, you can give me Max's gun and you can have Max standing right there telling me what to shoot. It's just not going to happen. So I think there's a lot of different elements to it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting how everyone has to go on that path for themselves to figure it out and go on to the next thing. And it's everyone has, like I said, everyone's got their own path, but we all kind of make it to there in the end, which is nice.
Yeah, and that was something I struggled with. That was the reason that I created Make Ready Nutrition, was because I've been in the fitness world, for the last 15 plus years, as a bodybuilder hobbyist, if you will. And I always stayed fit. I was morbidly obese, at 174 pounds, and felt bad all the time. I didn't know how bad I, had felt. But then, as I got into the shooting world, people were asking me, they were like, how do you stay so fit? How do you stay in shape? How do you seem to have energy, after stage 4? How do you, seem, so on and so forth? And I was like, well, I mean, it's 3 basic principles. There's nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it literally goes back to health class in school. You are what you eat. It goes back to nutrition, exercise, and rest. And with adequate amounts of those things, then you can perform, at your best. And so when I came into competitive shooting, I looked around, and like I say, I just fell in love with the people, and there were so many overnourished and undernourished, shooters, and they were asking me, these questions about, how do you get energy, how do you get stamina, how do you get focus, so on and so forth. Same response every single time. It's nutrition, exercise, and rest. But our athleticism is a little bit different, because if you take a pre-workout protein shake or something like that, and you go to the gym for an hour or maybe even 2 hours, what goes up must come down, right? You start competitive shooting, and the majority of our time is taping and resetting or ROing or something like that. And so we're on stage. I mean, we're on the range, anywhere from 5, 6, 7, and the case of Dragons Cup, 13 hours straight. You don't really have time to crash and try to recover from that. You got to find something that's going to augment your, nutrition, or, whatever you have going on. I mean, I know shooters that for breakfast, they would drink a regular Coca-Cola. That's their breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's just, caffeine and sugar, and there's nothing nutritious in that whatsoever, but that's all they knew, up until that point. So I started giving, some of those tips and tricks. I have a personal trainer. I work closely with people, that are in and around the National Football League in Dallas. I've got licensed therapists. Like I say, if you lift weights and you stay physically fit, you're going to have injury, and so on and so forth. So I was able to kind of pass on the knowledge and experience that I had. But and coming back from Odessa, I was like, okay, well, I think I can help these people. And so I was able to come back to Dallas and spend hundreds of hours on examine.com. And I knew what I wanted, Alex, but what you want and what you can afford in a commercially available product is 2 different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had a list of ingredients of certain things, and then poor Mitch and my other local shooters, I was using them, as my research and development, and and pitching ideas off of them and stuff like that. And I was reaching out to companies in Georgia and New York and Los Angeles and Utah and stuff like that, nutraceutical companies, and people just really wouldn't give me the time of day. But I was able to find a guy locally whose family owns a nutraceutical company, and they're global. And so that was the missing piece that I needed to kind of fulfill my dream. The hydration product, which has energy, focus, and stamina all in it, without caffeine or stimulants or anything like that. That's the thing that we've been able to take to Texas shooters, to Arizona shooters, people that withstand the heat and the the length of the matches that we're shooting. And originally they were just like, okay, Greg, this is good, dude. This is really good. And so we were able to package that from what, May of 2022, and then we launched on January the 7th. And I just, like I say, just truly blessed that I was able to come out with that. The pre-workout, the stem and the non-stem, I mean, those were no-brainers for me. They're all natural resources. All of our raws are completely natural and pure. And then again, I wasn't really looking for a recovery or a protein drink, but I was able to find a 34-gram protein powder that has 10 grams of collagen in it, which for us, that's fantastic because the collagen adds to, the tendon and the muscle recovery and the aches and the pains and stuff like that. So it had a dream of wake a shooter up, keep a shooter going, and then wind them down at the end of the day. And my experience was just from those ideals or those core principles. Users are amazing. I mean, there's constantly, like just yesterday, there was a shooter that was having struggle with energy and stamina, and I said, well, how's your nutrition? And he told me, and I said, well, that's your first problem, is you're under eating. And so I gave him, a few weeks ago, I gave him some tips of, 5 eggs in the morning with a cup of oatmeal and stuff like that. And so he sent me a picture of his bowl of oatmeal with a scoop of our recovery protein on top of it. And I said, dude, I wouldn't have never thought of that, but it's amazing though, right? So you got your carbohydrates and you got your proteins and your collagen all in, your breakfast and start off. So, I mean, this thing, it started off with just a dream or an idea of mine. I went back to my range, talked to my range owner, and come to find out he had been in the supplement industry for 20 years. I mean, who knew? I mean, so he was able to give me some ideas and direction, and and I was able to reach out to Kinsey Fitzpatrick. I listened to a lot of podcasts, not just yours. I listened to a lot of podcasts of what who's doing what in the industry. You might have caught Brian Connolly's Hunter's HD Gold. I mean, he tried our product live, on Instagram one night, and Kinsey texted me on the background, and she said, "Hey, would you give Brian a call?" And first I'm thinking, I don't, Brian who? and so, and so she's like, Brian Connolly, and I was like, oh my God. And so I gave him a call, and I'm talking to Brian, and he said, did you see me taste test your product? And I went, no, but so I came in and I watched it, and and then we partnered up right away. So I mean, just again, the shooting industry, phenomenal people, and they're always there to help and to give you good, honest feedback, whether you're shooting, whether it's in business. I mean, I've met so many people, just since I started this business.
Oh, absolutely. And this industry is so cool, and there's a bunch of different companies to partner with, and it's nice to see when another brand themselves pick up on what you're doing and adapt with themselves. Like hunters like Brian. Brian's always looking at the next thing. He's looking for the future. It seems like when whatever he does, so he's always making those plans. But I like to see that you talk to a bunch of shooters in your area. You got and you got the ideas off of them and whatnot. But did you as you're developing your product, did you use them as guinea pigs as well as like taste testing your samples at that point?
So I didn't use them as guinea pigs, but I used myself. And
Okay.
so again, before I had a formula or before I had a product, I didn't really have any choice. I just went to supplements.com and in my guest bathroom.
Mhm.
And so I created a lab, and I was looking at the ingredients and the measurements and amounts and stuff like that, and flavors and different. Actually going to a map. I mean, so there was the first stage I went up to, and I'd done the walkthrough through. So I mean, I knew the target array, the 2 targets to the right, 3 targets in the portal, run to the left. There's 2 targets on the just bolt to the left. And I'm thinking, man, why they pointed to the portal and they were like, "Are you ever going to shoot those 3 targets in there?" I was like, "Well, I might have been a little overamped on that day." So no, I never did try a final. First, some of the shooters said, "Man, we really don't need." There's 2 types of shooters. There's 2 types of people. There's caffeine all the way and more caffeine, or there's no caffeine at all. I created the 2 formulas, but some of the other shooters, they told me, they said, "Why don't you cut the caffeine out of the ammunition product, the hydration product?" And I said, "That's done. I mean, we're already done that." So there was some fine tuning, but not a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's cool to see that you used yourself as the test bed for your product and be able to take that feedback from people, and you definitely could see the effects of it on some stages, and you're like, oops, a little too much on the go juice, but
Yeah, overshot the mark.
hmm but it's nice you're not like Sig who uses their customers as a as a test base like they do for some of their guns, but yeah, I don't know what's happening with them lately. That's all I'm gonna say about that, but that's been funny in the news lately. But I did have a question that came up a little bit earlier. You said you were a bodybuilder, so, on the amateur level, um, and and you're in the nutrition field, with all your things, I'm assuming you see all these commercials about V Shred and all these things like about stop running on the treadmill and things on social media all the time, or is that just me? Do I just see it, or do you see it?
No, 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 no. I think
We all do.
we all do. I think I don't think there's a time that you can pull up your phone on any social media and just get, bombarded with stop dieting, stop this, stop exercising, so on and so forth. And, in the 15 years that I've been in the fitness and around fitness, um, people ask me all the time. They were like, "What about this diet? What about this program? What about this?" My canned response is all diets work.
Hmm.
That that's it. They all work. Now, so like I said, I was morbidly obese, and I made a transition back in 2006, 274 pounds. 13 months later, I was at 221 pounds. I had to get in shape to get in shape. And I had a lot of really good people help me accomplish that. But the keys that they instilled in me at that time was caloric deficit or caloric burn.
Hmm.
You can all, like I say, all diets work. Do them. The fact that I lost that amount of weight is okay. I mean, that's good. Yay me. Yay Greg. But the most important thing to me is I've been able to keep that weight off over 15 years. So I still weighed 221 this morning, so I'm still the same weight as I was, 15 years ago, 16 years ago. In the same instance of people, that's predominantly people want to lose weight, lose weight, lose weight. That's right. I mean, because we're as a society obsessed with overweight or, you know, big people or what have you. But then what about the underweight guys? What about the guys that just can't gain weight and maintain weight? And that's where, my friendship with Mitch came in. And I've been telling him for years, the only way you're going to pack on muscle is your nutrition. You're going to have to eat. And I mean, you have to eat constantly. My mindset was that I had to change live to eat to live. And anybody that knows me, they know, Greg eats all day long. I mean, that 6 meals a day, that's true. What's in those 6 meals, then that's even more important. I'll let Mitch kind of tell his story.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So, from my vantage point, what I struggled with pretty much all my life was I was the skinny kid, that no matter what I did, I could not get ahead in what I would say is just like, bringing my physique up to the level that, seemingly the folks that were around me, friends or whatever, were in that boat. And Greg and I, he's exactly right. We talked for years. I mean, years. Like I would, man, what do I got to do something like, and he said the same thing, right? The message never changed, right? And it would be like if we're training a new shooter how to shoot USPSA, right? We could say like,
Exactly.
hey, here's the 5 fundamentals. You've got to get this stuff right. And then they come back like 5 years later and they're like, so what do I need to do to get like here? Okay, well, let's go back to the basics. And from my perspective, it was I had my diet wasn't really a diet. It was just eat whatever I wanted and in excess or not. So there'd be cases where, I would wake up and I would have a Red Bull for breakfast, and then I would have a hamburger at lunch, and then I'd have some pizza at dinner. And then next day, go into whatever I wanted to do then, right? It might be, no breakfast and then Chinese food, and then maybe no dinner, but a piece of chocolate cake. Guess what? You're never going to get ahead. As a matter of fact, you're just going to go backward. And that's exactly where I was. So my weight fluctuated in the negative mostly. So I think the most that I ever weighed was probably about like when I during that time it was about 148 ish around there. But when we started, when Greg was like, let me know whenever you want to get serious. And, God bless his soul. I wanted to get serious. It was just, there had to be some event that occurred. And I remember a buddy of mine, I'm 46 years old now. I remember a buddy of mine, probably 10 years ago. I was 36. He was turning like 42 or something. And he said, you'll see when you turn 40, everything's going to change. You're going to have to get yourself in gear because everything's going to be harder. And if you don't start now, and I remember, I think about it all the time. If I started then, where would I be? Right. And so that's not to say I have lots of regret and I'm not going to, change. It's exactly the opposite is there was a day that came and I made that decision. Okay, I'm gonna try the things that Greg has said to try. Eat more food. Okay, drink more water. Okay, put the sodas down. Don't drink sodas. Okay, I'll do that. I mean, I went from drinking 6 to 8 Cokes a day. No lie. I mean, I drank Cokes all the time. And I would mix in Red Bulls and a 5 hour energy, whatever just whatever it took to keep me going. But my system was on a constant sugar up and down, just crash and rise and fall all day long. And so uh, whenever it was, we kind of hit that point where it was like, okay, so let's uh, let's do something different. And so I listened, and it was a matter of logging food for me was a huge deal because that put accountability into it, right? I could see my food in, whatever app you want to use. There's lots of them. There's MyFitnessPal you can get for free and just put your food in there and you'll see really quickly what you eat and what you don't eat, right? If you set a certain amount of caloric intake, for me, it had to be a caloric surplus. So if I was normally taking in 1,800 calories, realistically, I needed to be taking in like 3,600 calories,
Yeah.
double my calories. And that meant to not only be eating meals, but also supplements in between those meals. So it had to be protein shakes, and not only just a protein shake, but protein shake with a supplement like carbolin that would, drive high carbs. So high protein, high carbs. Sometimes it's higher on the carbs for me. And as I started to look at that formula, and Greg was just like, okay, if this is working, then do this for a period of time. Okay, I'll do that for a period of time. And what do you know? The weight started packing on. And I was like, holy cow, this is crazy. And I can't tell you how many times, I mean, I guarantee you, I would text him 2 times a day with my weight check-in. He didn't ask for that, right? He didn't care about that. But from my perspective, it was accountability. And so
Yeah.
in doing that, I was able to, kind of get to that next level. The day that I broke 150 pounds, I was like, holy cow. And Greg's like, well, yeah, what's your target goal? And I was like, I don't even know. Well, what are you working towards if you don't have a target goal? I don't know. What should it be? And he's like, what about 170? Well, I'll never get to 170. That's crazy. Right. And, a little bit at a time, that just implementing the same things, I was able to get to, I would say my fighting weight now is 165. I hit 170 occasionally, but where I kind of fluctuate in and out of is about 160, 164 to like 168. And I can control that weight pretty easily. I can go, if I want to overeat essentially and take in a lot of surplus, because say I'm going to go, do a, strenuous activity or whatever, then I can do that. But I've also gotten to a place where I realized, exactly like what Greg said, right? That for me, food is fuel. It's not necessarily anymore. I've got to go have the best meal that I can. Hey, if we're going to have a hamburger, let's go and try and find the best hamburger in Dallas. How about just get a hamburger and eat it?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then, occasionally it's fun to treat ourselves with good meals, but it shouldn't be that life revolve. For me, the experience was my life didn't need to revolve around finding the best meal that I possibly could. So today I'm on meal prep. So I actually order in meal prep food every uh, twice a week actually, and then my son, who's 20 years old, same program as well. He's gained like 5 pounds in doing that. He's a skinny, tall kid, and so he's got the exact same genes, same stuff going on with his high metabolism. So it just increase the caloric intake and make it good food. And then getting into the fitness level of it, as we all know, when we're combining the nutrition and the fitness, because ultimately we're trying to be better shooters, right? And
Yeah.
the thing that I kind of extrapolated from all of that is I'm doing this not only to be in better shape, but also the sport that I love. Really, it's kind of a requirement, I mean, we see certain people that kind of just like boggle our minds, right? You got like the guy that's I'm not going to mention any names, but there's some pretty big people that shoot USPSA very competitively. I mean, they are
Mm-hmm.
like rock star shooters. And I look at it and I'm like, man, that person is their skill set is like top notch because they're doing it as what I would say a more challenged person in that regard. So from my perspective, I wanted to get to a place where if I could get my system, where I need it to be, then I'm just ruling out yet another variable in the equation. And again, then from my perspective, it goes back into the mental management thing. So I think that's kind of where I land. It's a matter of dialing the diet, getting the fitness right, and then that last leg on the stool is rest. You got to have really really good consistent rest because the all the sayings that we see like on social media that's like you can sleep tomorrow kind of thing. Oh yeah, you can also die tomorrow. And one of the major things that is wrong with society today is a lack of rest, a lack of sleep. And if you could just uh, carve out, shut your systems down a little earlier in the day, cut your caffeine off by 5 o'clock or earlier, and try to get to bed by 10 or 11 instead of 1 or 2, and
Mm-hmm.
you'd be amazed by how much better your life is.
Yeah, and that's so true as well. Like even for me lately, I'll even say this. I've been trying to get 8 hours of sleep a night, but I've noticed I've had better sleep with less hours of sleep. Like the quality of sleep is better, like with around 6.5 instead of that 8 hours I was trying to achieve. And it's quite interesting because, we all talk about rest and we want to get enough rest. And I'm like, maybe I'm getting a too much rest. And it was just odd for me. Like even in the last couple of weeks, I've noticed this. Even if I stay up another hour, my sleep quality is better.
So what changed?
Just staying up a little bit later. I don't like other than maybe a little bit of stress, but I mean,
Got it.
no, but I mean, it's not like it was too bad, but it just seems like I try to go to bed by 9:30 every night and then have to get up at 5:30 in the morning to go to work. And I'd wake up every other hour, and as soon as you start the toss and turns, it's kind of over at that point.
Yep.
And then you never look at the alarm clock. Never look at the alarm clock in the middle of the night, because then the brain says, "Oh, you only have 2 hours left. You need to get up now." I'm like,
Yeah. Panic, panic, panic.
yeah.
Yeah, and I
Yeah. And
think we all have that.
Mm-hmm.
agreed. And I was going to say, so planning your sleep is another thing that a lot of high performers out there. I was listening to a podcast the other day by a guy by the name of Dan Go, and he's like a performance coach to, a lot of high performing people, high performing professionals. And he talked about that um, being able to dial your rest in to the way that it works well for you, right? And not every person is 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours. Some people are very, very capable of functioning on 5 hours, 5.5 hours of sleep. But it's a matter of finding that window, getting your circadian rhythm correct. I mean, there's just a whole lot of science behind that. And a lot of it really comes into when we get into the nutritional elements of it. If you have a really heavy meal before bed, like, garlic chicken or something, like you're going to be a different sleeper without a doubt. If your last meal of the day is just some, big greasy spoon kind of deal, that's going to be heavily affecting your capability of getting to sleep and keeping sleep. And of course, there's alcohol consumption as well. You get into that whole thing, caffeine consumption late in the day. So the more that we dial that kind of stuff back, or even just take it out of your life, right? And realize that there's ways to supplement stuff like that. Then there's a ton of people that go. I don't know how the heck they do it, but they go through life completely without caffeine, right? And that's, they say that's the way that they're able to perform at a high level. And I'm like, I can't imagine it, but I can absolutely imagine life with a lower level of caffeine, because that is definitely helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, a life without coffee is kind of sad. I wouldn't want to live a life without coffee.
Oh, no doubt.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching this awesome episode with Greg Earnhardt and Mitch Chapman of Make Ready Nutrition. If you've learned anything from this one, I appreciate it. Go check them out as well. I've learned a lot, and we're going to continue to have an awesome conversation till the end of the episode. But let's get to our meat and potatoes of why we cut it in the middle and have a commercial. We talk about our sponsors, our partners here at Manny Talks Shooting, and we appreciate them very much. So as we title sponsor the podcast, Go Fast, Don't Suck. They support us in great ways, working us with banners and whatnot and jerseys, and it's great support that Bill deserves. Some love back from the community. So go check them out. Go buy some stuff. As I say everything in the beginning, go check them out. Go fastdon'tsuck.net. Tell him Manny sent you. Move on with your day. I can't forget Hunter's HD Gold. Brian's one of the hardest working men in our sport. He's always out there pumping and grinding and making sure that everyone is there having a great time at the match and having awesome eyewear to look fantabulous on the range. Don't forget, we got our friends over at DominateDefense.com. Use the code MannyTalks10 for 10% off your Mach 1 Speed Belt combo. The best belt in the business. I'm going to tell you that. My favorite belt. It's got an awesome ratchet. It's just made well. Made in the US of A. Can't beat that. 100%. Don't forget, run over to DivTechShop.com. Our friend Nathan Dively's company of DivTech. He makes awesome 3D printed magnets, and they're pretty fantastic. I like them, and I enjoy them on my belt. I wish I had more, and I kind of should get more because you never can have enough magnets, and I don't know why I have the hiccups now. But anyway, use the code Manny Talks Shooting for 10% off your order there. Don't forget my friends over at Laugh and Low, Tony and Jackie, the Pew Time podcast. They also have awesome shirts and match apparel that you need. Get the official Manny Talks Shooting t-shirt. I need more of them. Duh. But you can get an AFT agent shirt. You can go get a Supreme Division shirt, only shoot open, because it's the only division you want to be shooting. That's just my opinion, because open guns are awesome. Just go check them out. Don't forget, run over to Chili Custom Gunworks or ccgunworks.com. Get a ELI2 grip, an L2 grip, whatever you want, an open gun, limited gun built till your builder. Chili Custom Gunworks parts. Can't forget Eric Steiner, Johnny Giordano, RangePanda.com. They're fantastic. They're awesome high-level shooters who are supporting the shooting sports through their endeavors through 3D printing, CNC lasering, and lasering and CNC machining. Duh. They make awesome things for your press and that you need as a competitive shooter. Honestly, they're awesome. Targets USA manufactures the finest steel targetry on the planet. I think it is true. You should believe it too because they are awesome. They support the shooting sports and they're freaking awesome people. Jason Wood is great. He goes support matches. He supports USPSA matches for the most part. PCSL is his main thing. But hey, check him out. TargetsUSA.com. TimHeronShooting.com, guys. He got me on the map of practical shooting. Go check him out. Get in a class before it's filled out. It's probably already filled. If you want him in your area, get on it now because he's probably already filling for 2024 and 2025. Just going to tell you that right now. Can't forget our great friends John Royer at Outdoor Dynamics, working hard to get that back order down to 0 as fast as possible without sacrificing any quality. Let's go check Outdoor Dynamics. Use the code Manny, MANNY, for 5% off your order. So go check them out. Also, our friends over at Summit City Bullets, Tony. He's a new friend of ours, and he's going to give you a code MTS10% sign for 10% off your order of some Summit City projectiles. 115, 124, 135, 147, and 160 grain, I think. So go check them out. They've got awesome different colors if you want high-tech coated bullets. SummitCityBullets.com. Use the code MTS10%. But there you go. Have it. There's the sponsors of the show, guys. Go check them out. I appreciate every single one of them. But let's get to the back half of this episode with Make Ready Nutrition.
Like I say, I'm caffeine sensitive, but I got to have my 2 cups of coffee in the morning, or it's just going to be a good day. But touch on one thing that Ms. said, and one thing that I've focused on with this company is sugar is killing America. I mean, it just really is. It's the cause of heart disease. It's the cause of everything. And that was one of the big things that I learned early on is how much sugar intake, that I was consuming. And not just, regular sugar in your coffee or sugar in products, but mainly the sugar in your food and anything that's, white bread or anything like that, or pizza dough is carbohydrates, and carbohydrates turn into sugar in your body and so on and so forth. And so once I started cutting that out of my life, my health started getting better. I was in really bad health. And so once I started cutting those, bad carbs out of my life and the sugar out of my life, and then replace those with complex carbs. So my go-to is like jasmine rice, or maybe even oatmeal in the morning or something like that, getting those carbs earlier in the day. And I didn't do any of this on my own, guys. I sought out people. So I sought out personal trainers. I sought out nutritionists, anybody that has, a company's subsidized or corporate subsidized insurance today have access to a nutritionist. I didn't know that. And once I had gone to a nutritionist when I first started, they basically they just looked at me and said, we got to change a lot about your life. Even 5 years after I had lost all the weight and gotten fit, I still continued to go to that nutritionist, and we would tweak those things. And I mean, first and foremost is get the sugar out of your life. Find the things. Mitch talked about logging the food. It's not so much about logging the food just to see, how bad you ate or how good you ate during the day. It's also about looking at those macronutrients and the complex carbs and the proteins and the good fats. And once you start incorporating that into your life, for me, it turned into a better lifestyle. And then I incorporated something that somebody passed on to me called sleep hygiene. And I never heard such a word, but I started incorporating. So Alex, you said you try to get to bed around 9:30 at night, stuff like that. I try to get to bed about 10, and that's lowering the lights, getting off the electronics, not laying in bed watching TV, so on and so forth. Just kind of quieting things down. I can do that easier now because we're empty nesters. We don't have kids. I have a wife that gets. Are you familiar with what a zoomie is? Well, like when pets get zoomies right before they go to bed or something like that, they run around. So my wife does that. And so she'll start kicking around, and she has this one little burst of energy or something like that. And I'll just say sleep hygiene, sleep hygiene. I'm just playing with her, but originally I try to lower that down. Now, what happens when we travel to matches? Well, then your sleep hygiene, your schedule, your routine, everything goes out the window, right? And then physically, matches seem to be a little bit more physically, you know, um, demanding of us, just for the simple fact that, you're gone 2 or 3 days and you're shooting AM and AM, or, you're walking stages, you're with your buddies, and you want to hang out and you want to have a good time. So that's been an adjustment for me, as to how to incorporate my nutrition and my sleep, my rest or something like that whenever we travel.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's definitely something I've also tried to implement. As you talk about, sleep hygiene. Trying to do that a little bit sooner. Like my phone goes on do not disturb at a certain point, so
Uh,
if it won't ring, but I might see it, but calming down, and it's definitely that's been nice over the past couple of months when I started doing that, and it's instead of going full bore. I've never been someone to watch TV in bed. Like we have a TV in the bedroom, but it's like it never is turned on. I don't know why it sits there anyway. But yeah, as you said about matches, those long days, a lot of people aren't prepared for those. And even myself thinking like I'm not in the best of shape. I could always be in better shape, but I'm not the worst one off. But those days are still rough, even on somebody who's actively trying to hydrate and stay hydrated and moving, and those are their
and fueled.
challenges. Mhm.
Yeah, and trying to stay fueled up, right? So, I mean, like I say, there's only one way to keep a campfire hot, and that's keep throwing logs on it. But when you don't have access to that food or something like that, I think we all kind of struggle with, how to keep going, how to get past that third or fourth stage, sink in energy. I mean, stage one, we're all amped up anyway. We're ready to go. I mean, this is what we've worked for all week, and so on and so forth. And probably me personally, I'm a little bit too amped up, right? And so I just shot the Roadrunner shootout in Fresno, and stage one for me was a thinking stage. And I'd probably walked it, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 times. I watched other shooters or something like that. I got up and I knew I was going to do this. And I got up there and, make ready. And then all of a sudden, shooter ready. And boy, I got fired up. And so I took my first target, my second target, and then the third target was a little bit trickier shot. I could have been more patient, and I shot the wall. And then I shot the wall again. And I don't know about you, but I know mentally I'm trying to tell myself, cadence, pace, slow down, get your hits, so on and so forth. But it just seemed like my body, my gun, my trigger finger, my feet, none of that was listening to my mind at that point, and I was just balls out and just shooting everything, and then ended up, getting three mics on the stage, and that's stage one, right? So no matter how good you shoot the rest of the match, you're at a deficit. You just
Mhm.
zeroed it. So I think we all suffer with that. And if we can probably go back and apply the Steve Anderson's mental management, and continue with that from like target number one to the last target of the day. That's what I'm trying to bring to the physical aspect of it, to the nutrition aspect of it, to the supplement aspect of it. I mean, Steve Anderson has got the mental management on lock. Kiddo Bussy has got the smart move on lock. So Greg Earnhardt is trying to bring in, the nutrition and the supplement aspect of the shooting, so that you got the three legs of the stool, as Mitch said, and you're trying to pull those things together. So now it's just up to practice, right?
Mhm. Yeah, and that's actually a really good way of putting it too. As you're right, Kita's got her move thing. Steve is great on the mental management side. He's figured out a way to make that system work for a lot of shooters, and it's developed a lot of shooters too, and like national champion contenders. Like he always talks about Jay Beal. Jay Beal's a freaking beast of nature, and he's freaking. I don't know. I wouldn't put bet money on it, but I don't know if he's lighter than Mitch or not. Hmm. But
Yeah,
yeah,
he's pretty light.
yeah. Well, you see that. I mean, a couple months ago, he was running barefoot through the woods in Maine. I was like, crazy Jay.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Wow.
crazy.
yeah. He's got a crazy mental attitude about it, and it's that man. He'll do whatever he wants to with his mindset to it. So,
Well, he's maniacal, right? And I think a
Mhm.
lot of us are maniacal about our sport, and we care that much about it, and we're willing to do whatever we need to do. Um, in the capability of what are, or the capabilities of, I mean, I'm 61 years old. I'm only going to be able to shoot as fast as I'm going to be able to shoot. I'm only going to be able to get a side picture as fast as I'm going to be able to get a side picture. So that's great. And so whenever I looked at this sport and I really wanted to give back to everything that had been given to me, I, I mean, I'm a realist. I'm not a gun manufacturer or accessory manufacturer or anything like that. But I thought about, well, I've got, 15 plus years as a consumer of supplements and nutrition, and I've got access to nutritionists and to professional athletes, to different people. I mean, I work out at a gym in Dallas to where the world champions work out at, and so I have access to to them. You asked Alex, you asked earlier if I'd ever tested any products out on shooters. I might have tested some products out on some personal trainers and some, some fitness experts and some IFBB pros and stuff like that. But I mean, these guys are experts in that field, and so they were good, honest feedback. Um, a lot of them wanted to tell me, you want more, you want more, you want more. But, once I introduced them to the practical shooting world, they were like, wait, whoa, we never heard about this. So yeah, you are athletes, but you don't really need to, squat 450 pounds. What you guys need to be able to do is think of it as a triathlete. You need to be strong, you need to have stamina, you need to have focus and mental clarity. And so that's exactly where my ammunition product formula came from. It was made for triathletes in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. My formulator is amazing with flavors, but with formulas, he created it for his daughter who was a triathlete, and then that expanded out into golfers and to tennis players, and it never went commercial. Nobody ever picked it up until I got it, and nobody has that formula anywhere in the industry that I've been able to find.
Hmm. And speaking of that, you talked about the flavors and whatnot. You've got what, berry and lemon at the moment, I'm assuming.
For the pre-workout, yeah,
Hmm.
the performance.
Yep, performance. Are you planning on expanding the line in flavors, or you think you're just going to stick to those flavors?
No, we've got, like I said, we've got access to any flavor that we want. The thing was to get a product. I mean, if you look at the tub, I personally had to pick out the tub size, the scoop size, the logo on the tub. I mean, I had a graphics artist team and access to a phenomenal, professional team and stuff like that. But I still got to input. So like the directions, the name of the company was based upon every time we went to a match. The first thing you hear is "make ready." So I was like, well, that's kind of cool, man. I just mentioned I got our RO certifications at the time. And so I was walking around, saying make ready anyway. And so I thought, well, make ready nutrition, that would be kind of cool. And then so for the uh, performance powder, I mean, and so those names have changed, and so there's several iterations. There was perform, ammo, and recover. So there was, changes in. You can't call it that because I also have access to a general counsel, and so they've done research on all these names and all these different product names and stuff like that, to where that's not even the original logo that we started out with. And so, it was like, well, what's the most points you can get on a target? 2 alpha.
Hmm.
So that was like, okay, well, that's pretty cool. So can I get the name 2 alpha? And my general counsel came back and they said that's available. So the directions on how to use, take 30 minutes, mix with 8 to 10 ounces, 30 minutes before hammer down. I've got people in the fitness industry that have picked up on these products and they're like, man, this stuff is really good. It gives me enough energy without giving me the shakes and so on and so forth. But what the hell does hammer down mean? And I was like, without getting into a discussion about what is practical shooting, because nobody really understands that, is like drop the hammer. And they're like, oh, okay, okay, I get that. So,
Hmm.
so, so yeah, to expand the flavors, I mean, that's definitely on the horizon. We are about to, so the other two questions that we had the most were, hey, can you come out in a stick pack? And, so we can throw this in our range bag. And like, yeah, I mean, I can do anything. It just takes money, right? And
Hmm.
so we started with a certain amount of seed funding on on my own, and then I brought in a business partner who handles all the operations and the manufacturing and the distribution, logistics, and so on and so forth. But the next flavor that I want to bring out, which bear with me, is vanilla for the protein powder, because I really want to be able to make protein pancakes. Um,
Ooh, yeah, yeah, that does sound good. Or waffles? Waffles.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? And so cookies and cream, or like some people have come up with, peach cobbler, some of the other things. Yeah. So like I say, I've got a formulator right now. We're going to be releasing this, so I can go ahead and talk about it. I hadn't been able to talk about it because the second thing that's been most requested is a ready to drink, or like a canned energy drink or something like that. The company that I work with for my formulations, they have a canning facility not far from the manufacturing facility, and so they have a keto energy drink, which is kind of weird. So it has the ketones, actual ketones, which are good for you. I mean, you don't have to be, in ketosis, to realize the benefits of that, which is the focus and the energy and the stamina. But it also has 200 milligrams of caffeine, and we'll be releasing that at Dragon's Cup, and it's going to be Dragon's Blood. That's going to be the flavor of it. So you can, you'll see those being talked about and for sale soon.
Well, that's awesome. That's exciting to hear. Yeah, I would totally eat vanilla protein waffles. Like that just sounds amazing.
34 grams of protein, in a waffle, right?
Hmm.
And collagen. So you're getting your goodness, and I mean, you can't beat a good waffle.
Right? It seems like that's how Mitch would love to start today, right?
It, well, it's that, and with vanilla, then you have other options for like the shakes that you're going to make, right? You don't really want to put. I'm a big berry person. I like mixed berry and like triple berry kind of stuff. So if you're going to make like a frozen smoothie, right? It's kind of challenging to put berries and chocolate together and make that
Ugh,
happen. It's it just so the
gross.
vanilla is gonna open up a whole new world, which will be really cool. So yeah, I've there's been a lot of folks that have asked about that. As a matter of fact, I was talking with Jess Morrow the other day, and she was like, "Holy smokes, when is vanilla coming out?" And like, patience, patience, it's coming. Everything's coming. So just got to give it some time. But yeah, the other thing with the ready to drink, the RTD coming out at Dragon's Cup, if you look at the industry, by and large, you go to a gas station, and it's like a sensory overload for the consumer,
Oh,
Hmm.
right? I mean, the refrigerator is full. I mean, it's like depending on where you go, right? Some gas stations, like we have some here in Dallas called like Quick Trip and
Hmm.
Racetrack. You like open it up. They have like three coolers full of RTDs, like every single flavor possible, and it just is a matter of, you know, the users just picking the one that they want, right? It's like they just grab and go, not even thinking about what's actually in it. And I think that the game changer for us is being able to have good quality ingredients in the product that people can have and not have a significant crash or experience something that's going to just send them off into never land where they can't get their mind back and that whole thing. And and that's the name of the game, right? It's just having the delivery mechanism be easily available. So some of us, you're just going to grab a can out of the fridge and get in the car and go
Hmm.
versus, hey, I got to mix up, get my shaker and, do that. It does take an extra step, but, I think it's kind of it's the next level, next evolution.
Hmm.
I'm excited about it.
that and there's no sugar in those RTDs that I'm coming out with. Again, I hate sugar. I mean, it
Yep.
almost destroyed my life, and many other lives. And so I still suffer the consequences. I mean, I had a heart attack back in 2019. I don't know if that was because genetics or poor life choices or because of sugar, but I know that as a result of cutting sugar out of my life, I've been able to lose the weight, maintain the fitness level that I want to maintain, and a healthier lifestyle.
Hmm.
I've never seen a study that said you're deficient in sugar, you need more of it, and you'll get healthier. I've never
Yeah.
seen one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think so either. But now I just got to put this in your brain. Bucky's. Got to get
Yeah.
Yeah,
now just think
Yeah.
about it. Sensory overload is
Yeah.
Bucky's.
Yeah.
Bucky's.
Yeah.
We have a Bucky's right down the street from our home range.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We drive by it every time we go to that range.
Every time we shoot. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, Bucky's might as well just be a grocery store at
Mhm.
this stage of the game, right? It's like a mini grocery store slash Walmart slash barbecue joint slash
Gas station.
largest bathroom selection possible,
Cleanest.
right?
Yeah. Cleanest restrooms.
Well,
Yep.
like when I like to explain Bucky's to people is the fact that it's like Walmart in the best truck stop had a baby, and and that's what it is. It's just like it's got everything you need and probably stuff you don't, but you just
Exactly.
like you
Yeah.
go buy clothes. Like, oh look it, my clothes are ruined from the car trip. I guess I'm wearing Bucky's apparel all the way to the next stop.
And
Exactly.
and if for some reason you forgot your barbecue smoker for where you're going, you could buy a smoker there too.
Or a deer
And
feeder.
yeah,
Hmm.
or a deer feeder. In some parts, I was going to say deer feeder, deer corn, smoker. You can get a complete wardrobe. You can buy a painting, sculpture, barbecue,
And burrito.
and then a bag of beaver nuggets, and you're back on the road.
So, Greg, are beaver nuggets okay to look at for you? You just can't have them.
I will eat it. They are protein, but they're so full of nitrates that I mean, I just don't make a practice, beaver nuggets.
So, if you got to eat a beaver nugget, or you were gonna eat a beaver nugget, which flavor would it be?
What is it? Chipotle? Mitch, what was the last ones we got when we went hunting? They were pretty good. The smoked, hickory smoked or Chipotle or something. I mean, they were
Yeah,
pretty good.
they were pretty good. But I was going to say, when we road trip, typically, even our road trip behavior has changed with dietary, right? It used to be we'd get in the truck and I'd have like a big gallon Ziploc of Cheez-Its, like
Hmm.
Tabasco Cheez-Its. And then the cooler would be full of Red Bulls and maybe a bottle of water or two. And that was it, man. We're taking off, and then if we hit Bucky's, we're gonna grab a big bag of this and a big bag of that. And now it's like it's beef jerky. It's usually beef jerky or it's jerky from an animal that we have killed.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then if we get into some Cheez-Its, it's not Cheez-Its, it's Protein Quest, their version of it that's got protein in it. And then it's water and whatnot. So, we're kicking along down the road. Now we're stopping a lot more than we used to stop because we got a lot of fluid flowing through. But yeah, we're a lot more healthy in that regard. I love beaver nuggets, but I don't get into that stuff anymore because I can just
No.
tell it changes my digestion. Everything just suffers if I do.
Hmm. Yeah, I can see that, especially with the life choice changes you make. It's a once in a blue moon. Oh, this kind of looks good, kind of thing, not a
Yep.
every time. Now, I'm one of those weird. I guess I'm an odd person. I buy the gallon jugs of water purely for the fact of like I just refill my cup, so I don't kill
Yep.
the environment.
Yep.
Like plus then you can refill them, and then you just don't have to buy another jug of water, especially if your
And
house water
that's
tastes good.
that's why you can go to makereadynutrition.com, and I've partnered with Ice Shaker. And it keeps ice cold for 30 hours.
Yeah, there you go. That is
Shameless plug.
Hey,
Yeah.
nothing wrong with shameless plugs. That's what everything is about. Now, I've been loving this conversation. This has been going awesome and I love it. But we've got to eventually get to the end, but we're not there yet. So, Greg, I know you've been sponsoring some major matches. You're already you're at Roadrunner, last weekend or so. Where
Absolutely.
else is Make Ready Nutrition going and sponsoring this year?
Dragons Cup 3.0. Yep, Dragons Cup 3.0. We do have some sponsorships out on the East Coast. Um, where I've sent, so I've partnered with Go Fast Don't Suck Bill Duda, love him, and so he is making our banners for us, and but that came of recommendation of Brian, of course, because Brian's been around this for quite a while, and he's figured it out, and so we've got Bill making our banners. The Trenton Trenton Armory on these because I'm going to butcher these if I try to do them off my brain. But so we're sponsoring those. Area 4, we're sponsoring that is at our home range here in Texas at Mission 160. Walker's IDPA state match at Mission 160 as well. And that's kind of it. We did sponsor the Michigan Gang Unit, which they're having a big, just having a big conference up in Michigan. And they're on our Instagram, but they reached out and they said, "Hey, would you be interested?" And so I said, "Yeah. I mean, we're always interested, right?" And so I think there's a synergy between the shooting world and the supplement and fitness world. It's just me personally, Mitch as well. We had a cabinet full of all these products, that we were mixing and matching and trying to, to put together. And so when I came up with this idea for the hydration, I was able to get the branched chain amino acids, the ATP capabilities, lots of vitamin C. So I was able to consolidate that. I was able to consolidate the protein and the collagen down into one tasty product. And then the pre-workouts, I was able to replace, the pre-workouts that I take, which are non-stem, with my own product because the raws and the everything natural in it and no junk. So, being that I manufacture these products, I'm very, very aware of what fillers go in them and what quality of the raw materials or the resources themselves. And so, again, I'm being held accountable by professionals, fitness professionals, as well as shooting professionals. They're going to come back and they're going to call me if I've got junk in my stuff, or especially if I've got any sugar in there whatsoever.
Absolutely. And I guess it's nice to have accountability with someone too, right? And that's for me. Like I have a buddy I met through shooting on Instagram. We're accountability partners for each other. Like when it comes to working out, we live nowhere near each other, but we always get that random. As we do, it's the awkward elliptical run video. It's like 4 seconds if you're running on an elliptical. It's like it's great, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice to have that accountability for yourself as well, and I do like that.
Yeah. So keep an eye on social media at MakeReadyNutrition.com on Instagram, Make Ready Nutrition on Facebook. We've got Kinsey Fitzpatrick, who's posting a lot of great content. Sloan Sanders, which is just, an absolute angel and one hell of a, world-class shooter as well. And I just got to shoot with J.R. Guerrero from TTI, Terran Tactical, and got to meet Zach Smith as well as Marco Cabahug. I mean, what a great team these guys are. So I don't know that. Hopefully, we can do some things. They're all taking our product now, and they're they're getting more fitness minded and getting back into the gym. I mean, Zach was already pretty fit and very athletic. Marco's very athletic, and then I got to shoot on the same squad with JR. Just phenomenal. I mean, just what a great human being this guy is. What a good shooter he is. But the enthusiasm that JR brings, and so he and I, have talked about some things too. I don't know. You may see our logos on some jerseys this year for sure.
That is awesome. And that is awesome. Mitch, do you have any final words for the listeners?
No, I think where we really land is just, starting to focus on all the important aspects of your life, and your shooting game will elevate based on, the rest of that stuff kind of catching up. So it's a great community. We love working with everybody, shooting with everybody, and look forward to more of these kind of podcasts. Thanks so much for having me on, for sure.
Well, you're both welcome and being on. It was a blast, and I learned a lot actually, and I'm gonna go dive down a rabbit hole and go read some more, watch some internet. It's probably not great to watch it on the internet, but it's okay. But Greg, any final words for yourself, sir?
Just lastly, Alex, thanks for having us on. It's been an absolute pleasure. Anytime that I can talk about shooting and nutrition and fitness, and just give him, kind of my story. I want to thank each and every shooter that's encouraged me, throughout this journey, throughout this process. It's made, the last, 8, 9, 10 months. It's as challenging as it has been. It's very encouraging for me, the people that reach out and give me, a good, honest feedback. I answer the general at makereadynutrition.com email address. I answer that. So I've had shooters reach out to me and ask me questions about my product. I'm the guy you're talking to. I love it. Ask me questions anytime about nutrition, supplementation, just anything. I really love this sport. I really enjoy it. The fact that I've been blessed enough to come in and just be a part of it and to give back has just been it's just been phenomenal. So shooters, fitness, anybody that take a look at our story and see what we've done, and you got any questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And like I said, guys, thanks for coming on. It's been a blast. We've been informative, I hope. And somebody goes and from listening to this, goes, tries your product and goes and makes a difference and change in their life with changing their balance of, nutrition, exercise, and rest.
Yep.
Hopefully. But like I said, thank you guys for coming on, and listeners, thank you for watching. Until next time, get out and do the things. And I will see you on the next one.